Колеги, продовжуємо робочий день. Зараз я до слова запрошую полковника.
I give the floor to Colonel Andriy Lysenko, a spokesperson for the anti-terrorist operation, with the latest of what's going on in the east of Ukraine. And now we'll have an additional briefing at 1500. The first Deputy Minister of Energy Resources and Coal Industry, he'll talk about non-payment in the coal branch. So this is at 3 p.m. and now Mr. Colonel Lysenko. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Over the last 24 hours, the biggest tension in the zone of anti-terrorist operation was in the vicinity of the city of Avdiivka and settlement Pisky. Our positions were shelled and fired at by the gunmen more than 10 times from small firearms, grenade launchers, mortars, and artillery. And mind you that more than once said that they Scritchen, the illegal armed formations tried to storm out. And against this background, the delivery of Russian arms and military machinery continued through parts of the Ukrainian-Russian border. This information was confirmed by the ambassador of the USA in Ukraine, Jeffrey Pyatt, and he said that U.S. has proof that Russian officers and generals are taking part in combat action in Ukraine. Of the class ground to air, and the regular units of the Russian army took part in seizing Debaltsevo. Russia has sent several hundred units of heavy armaments as of starting from December, it said. Also, over the last 24 hours, one Ukrainian military was killed and 4 were wounded. In Shastya city, the security service of Ukraine detained 4 informers of the LNR bandit formation who were collecting information about the places of deployment, number of personnel, and armaments of the Ukrainian armed forces units. They were preparing to hand over to their curators the lists of patriotically inclined citizens whose families live on temporarily non-controlled territories. They plan to use the members of families of Ukrainian patriots as hostages to blackmail local population and intimidate local population. There's on the crossing point Lysychansk, the Ukrainian bodyguards have detained the Ukrainian citizen who took part in the activity of the illegal armed formations. In his mobile, he had another citizen detained at the point in the north of and they found information materials that point to his possible participation in the activity aimed at the destabilization of social and political situation on the territory of Ukraine. In Luhansk region, the police have found and confiscated an underground arsenal of armaments. They found 7 boxes with ammunition, 6,160 rounds of live ammo, 5 boxes with F1 grenades, 90 grenades, 8 mines, 2 2 boxes of trinitrotoluol explosives, 11 grenades for grenade launcher, and so on. They also booby-trapped the storage, and they also a bag with documents and things that were stolen were found there that feature an investigation on killings, murders. We also see the inflagration of contradictions between representatives of different bandit formations in Donetsk. They try to take hold of oil products on the gas filling stations. In the city of Krasny Luch, because of non-payment of money remuneration, the conflict is sharpening between the so-called Cossacks of the old Grand Troop Donsk with the local occupational authorities. Over 250 young lieutenants, graduates of the Military Institute of Telecommunication and Informatization, will arrive to military units of the armed forces of Ukraine, taking into account the complicated situation in the east. The graduation of young officers took place not in their parade jackets, but in the new field combat fatigues. Yesterday, at the Faculty of Military Preparation of the National Technical University Kharkiv Polytechnic Institute, a early graduation of lieutenants took place. Almost 40 young officers have completed a 5-year course on running and armored vehicles and military chemistry. Ukraine helps its citizens who live in frontline cities. Over the last 48 hours, over 40 tons of humanitarian aid was delivered to settlements in the east of Ukraine. Residents of Donetsk and Luhansk regions have received foodstuff like sugar, flour, pasta, vegetables, and so on. The rotation is going on. Yesterday to Zaporizhia from the zone of the anti-terrorist operation force, one of artillery units came back, and the Ukrainian warriors were met by their wives, mothers, family, and friends. After a short span of rest, the military are again ready to come back to the east of Ukraine. And now you will hear the stories from the life of military personnel of the 8th Air Mobile Brigade on the front line. Recently, they have seized a tank from the militants. This happened several days before the ceasefire. The gunmen tried to attack, however, they were made to retreat, and they abandoned a tank with a full with a full set of ammunition. The commandos have assembled their own crew, and they manned the armored vehicle. The commander of the tank became Sergei Poduban from Kiev region. At first it was a bit hard, he says, but then we did organize several rounds of shooting. We warn our enemies that if they break the agreement about the ceasefire, we will repel them worthily. Also, on the first day of spring, the warriors of the 80th Brigade have greeted the women together with whom they work. Of course, it is hard to find flowers in the combat zone, but so they have made artificial flowers and stuffed them with candy.
Good afternoon. Patriot Defense, the humanitarian initiative of the World Congress of Ukrainians. Our program has completed the training of the graduates of the military institutions of Ukraine. Those graduates that you were talking about are there any plans that the tactical medicine is included into the training to all the institutes and academy in Ukraine, so that all the military, not just the graduates, but all the interns have the knowledge in technical medicine? I don't know about any plans as to including the course of tactical medicine into the curricula of the educational institutions, but as life shows, this course helped to learn the skills of providing immediate emergency medical assistance in the field, and thanks to these skills, the guys and girls who learned from you, they saved the lives of hundreds of our servicemen, because the first minutes after the person is wounded, if the qualified medical assistance is rendered, that saves life, and people do not die because of bleeding. So we really thank you very much, and I hope, and this will be so, that in our military institutions there will be this course introduced. That is the life that dictates it, and I would like to thank you for your initiative and for training our guys. Ukraine channel. Vitaly Tarasev, could you please tell how are the troops being withdrawn? Is that done according to the plan or not? And are you ready for the next stages of withdrawal? Thank you for your question. There is an order on withdrawal of first 100 millimeter guns, Rapira, and the international observers from OSCE and the journalists were present during this withdrawal. We hope that the enemy will execute their promises and they will not return to the front line. At night, the heavy weaponry which they take away from the front line in front of the cameras, but it's too early to say anything, because every day we observe the violation of ceasefire, including with the use of heavy weaponry which the militants had to take away from the front line. So now the process is going on. Yes, right, the process is going on, and what it looks like, it doesn't mean that everyone at the same time collects all the weapons and take them away. First, there should be the areas designated, then the teams are to be designated, then if it is the direction where we see the accumulation of the personnel and the armaments of the enemy, then from that section of the front, the artillery will not be withdrawn so quickly. We are monitoring the situation all the time. Today, Timchuk wrote that near Gorlivka, and they were using the barrel weaponry, and the militants are planning their offense there. Yesterday we had information that big group is being formed in Avdiivsky, Lugansky and Mariupolsky directions. So this situation is being monitored. We know about that. Liga Business Inform, you've mentioned that at night the militants get their heavy artillery back to the front line, and that is happening near Mariupol. Are there any other sections where you observe the same? Everywhere where the militants are demonstratively withdrawing the heavy weaponry, it's either redislocation to other places where they are planning offensive operations, or or in the daytime they take the equipment away, at night they bring it back. to show you a separate section. Here, Mariupolsky section is there's one battalion tactical group which is reinforced by armored equipment here near Zvarina. It's like a green corridor, and they supply all the equipment via this corridor. So this direction, Donetsk, Debaltsevo, Donetsk, to assault Avdiivka, and here at this section, Uspenka, Vrosiivka. These are the main places where heavy weaponry is concentrated for possible attacks, which we observe. As to Ukrainian personnel and armaments, there are several lines of defense. There's accumulation of our equipment and reserves. The commandership is doing everything to avoid unexpected attacks so that they can react to any offensive actions of our enemy quickly. And to continue this question, taking into account that the militants are accumulating forces near Mariupol, which measures applied to repel the possible attack at Mariupol, and what about artillery? In the battle, where there's the defense, the first thing to be done, and that is done, the engineering structures are being reinforced. They organize new firing points for defense and firing points for artillery, so that the armored vehicles can also move and fire from different points. The line of defense, several lines of defense, which are already in place, and our military are observing the situation. They do their own reconnaissance to know what the enemy has, what are the numbers, what are the forces to react adequately in defense battle. These are defense structures, and the reconnaissance data is important, which show the situation, if not in online mode, but at least several minutes, an hour is needed to get a big battalion relocated. So the monitoring of the situation is very important. Any other questions? Thank you. Our next briefing on ATO zone tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Anatoly Stelmach by Skype.